appreciation. You will want to stay until the end of tonight's meeting, as some of you will win door prizes. All winners must be present and to win. We also hope you enjoy the bill credit each member in attendance will receive here this evening. Now I ask that you all please switch your cell phones to silent mode. Medical assistance is available if needed. Thank you to the Knox Ambulance Service for being here tonight. I also want you to remind everyone that tonight's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the CEC's website. Now, let's begin the 89th annual meeting of the members for Central Electric. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem by Stacy Bechtel. She is an IT specialist here at Central Electric.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, thanks, Stacy. Please bow your heads as Chris Panion leads our invocation this evening. Following the invocation, Matt Boshaw, CEO and General Manager, will begin our introductions. Chris? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. We come to you today asking for guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. We humbly place ourselves before you. You are filled with beauty and light that is shed upon us each day. Help us engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of our community. Help us to value and appreciate our time together this evening. We ask this through your Son and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. As Jody mentioned, I'm Matt Boshaw, the CEO and General Manager here at Central Electric. And it's my honor tonight to be able to introduce a few people, including our board of directors. Yes, in case you can't see me very carefully, I am trying a new look tonight. Hope it's really having the impact that I hope it does. No, nobody got the impact joke. I smacked my face on something. Okay, never mind. Anyway, I'd like to again welcome you to our annual meeting of the membership. It's our 89th. I'd also like to thank you for taking the time to participate with the business of your cooperative. It's because of meetings like this that makes the cooperative difference. Thank you to Central Zone Stacy Bechtel for her rendition of the national anthem every year. I'm amazed by that. Thank you, Stacy. Where you at? There she is. I'd also like to take the opportunity to introduce your member-elected board of directors. This group probably doesn't need any introduction. They're your neighbors and friends. They've done many things in your communities for years and years. They represent you, our members, diligently through their hard work on Central Electric's board. We're fortunate to have a board with such a variety of experience in their personal and professional lives, as they offer unique perspective to the governance of our cooperative. Please join me in recognizing them and thanking them for their service. First, Jody Weaver, Board President, Clarion County. I have to look at where everybody's seated. I didn't. Ken Durrett, Board Vice President from Butler County. Althea Smith, Board Secretary and Treasurer from Venango County. And Althea is our PREA, our Pennsylvania Rural Electric Association Board member as well. Richard Weaver from Clarion County and the Allegheny Electric Cooperative Board member. Nancy Lendak from Armstrong County representative. Dana Kellogg, our Venango County representative. And Jared McFarland from Forest County. Not seated up here tonight because he had a conflict and wasn't able to join us. Bob Smith, who's not going to be running for re-election this year from Butler County. Even though he's not here, I'd like to thank him for his time on our board. He's served very well. Thank you. Again, I saw somebody about to clap. Thank you. Also seated with us here is Central Electric's legal counsel, attorney Mike Sloat from Lynn King and Schreffler PC. Michael. So next, I'd like to take a moment and recognize our Member Aware Advisory Committee. This group meets with Central. This group, I agree though. This group meets with Central Electric staff several times a year and is provided with information about the cooperative and the electric utility industry. It's a great opportunity for me to interact with individual members on a more regular basis and talk about things that aren't related to just their service, but bigger picture issues for the business. So I really appreciate this particular committee. I'd like to thank our 2026 Member Aware Advisory Committee for their service, and I'll go through who they are right now. Representing Armstrong County, Deborah and Dennis Young and James Seaman. If you're here with us, please stand up when I call your name, if you don't mind. I don't know if all of them have been able to join us this evening. Representing Butler County, Michael Gaston, Cody Slater, Robert and Shirley Weary, Sarah Radigan, Joan McGarvey, and Linda Hefner. Representing Clarion County, Alan Carmichael, Teresa Hurlbrink, and Jacqueline Gribble. And representing Forest County, Michael Hunt, Matt Fosha, and Bruce Tomczyk. And representing Venango County, Gavin Weber, Michael Pratt, Carleen Latlis Garrett, Lohman, Zeb, oh boy, I'm going to screw up your last name, Zeb, I'm sorry, Pacelli, I think, James and Leanne Brown, and I love that we've got a James Brown on our MAC committee, that's terrific. Scott and Marcia Best, and Walt Hoffman. A new committee is going to be forming in 2027, so if you're interested in participation, please contact our office. Also joining and helping us today is Morgan Webb from the Pennsylvania Rural Electric Association, or PREA, and America's Electric Cooperatives PAC. I got it right that time, I didn't say acre. Morgan's over there at our table. The PAC is a bipartisan political action committee that financially assists state and federal legislators who support cooperative initiatives and rural communities like ours. If you're already a member of the PAC, thank you for joining. It's very important for our voices to be heard, and for our influence to be recognized. Both here and in Harrisburg and in DC. If you'd like more information about the PAC or how to become a member, please see Morgan tonight or reach out to Katrina Konechny. She's over there. She's one of our employees. And yes, I pronounced her name correctly. Thank you. Whether you join the PAC or not, please let me ask you, especially this fall, get out and vote. Rural America voting needs to be heard. We need you to get your voice heard. I don't care who you vote for, just get out and vote. So thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to welcome Jody back to the podium to continue our introductions.
At this June, Central Electric sent 5 local high school juniors on our youth tour. Our student representatives were able to spend a week in our nation's capital with other cooperative student representatives from across the country. They met with their local legislators, toured historic sites and monuments, and made new friends. Stand if you are present tonight. And again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of your names, but we'll give her a shot here. Sarah Lessner, homeschooled student. Joseph Spence, Keystone High School. Arabelle Wheeler, Keystone High School. Violet Scardarda, PA Leadership Charter School. And Shasta Betty Watson, Cranberry Junior Senior High School. And additionally, Central Electric awarded 10 good neighbor scholarships to students who demonstrated an excellent level of non-paid service to their school, community, and/or church. Our 2026 Good Neighbor Scholarship winners are, again, would you please stand? Olivia Hartzell, Penn State University. Landon Baker, Cranberry High School. Riley Dittman, Keystone High School. Elizabeth Redding, Knock High School. Giselle Vinrow, Slippery Rock Area High School. Denver Ott, Butler County Community College. Ryland Strasser, Slippery Rock University. Samantha Cornell, University of Miami. Jacob Henry, Keystone High School. Adeline Crawford, Red Bank Valley High School. Again, let's give them all a big hand. We're proud of all our young ambassadors and would like to see more young members become involved with the cooperative. So I ask for your help and encourage younger members you know to become involved with Central Electric. It is their cooperative too, and they are our future. And now, this meeting is called to order. The agenda or order of business of the annual meeting of the members is in accordance with Article 3, Section 6 of the bylaws. Article 3, Section 4 of the bylaws of the cooperative specify that 150 members constitute a quorum except when there is no contested director election, in which case the quorum to conduct business requires 8 members. The board of directors, members in attendance, and the members that voted by mail and online satisfy the quorum requirement, and we will proceed with the meeting. Upon registration, you received a copy of last year's minutes. To expedite our business meeting, can I hear a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of our 2025 annual meeting of the members and approve the same? Okay. Is there a second to this motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The annual report, which includes our balance sheet and operating statement, will be published in the August issue of Power Lines and is also available on the cooperative's website. In addition, printed copies have been provided to all members in attendance today. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the financial statements and waive the reading thereof. Is there a motion? Motion? Okay. Is there a second to this motion? I'll second. All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And at this time now, we'll go back to hear from Matt Beauchamp, CEO's General Manager.
Thank you, Jody. Oh, excuse me, I have written remarks, so thank you, Mr. President. Rather than, should have been much more formal than that. Thank you. I'm gonna pull this up because it's easier for me instead of having to make sure I'm leaning this way the whole time. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So again, I'm gonna welcome you to the 89th annual meeting of our membership. It's great to have you participate in the events that sets cooperatives apart from investor-owned utilities. To reiterate what Jody said earlier, I'd like to thank those of you that joined us at our member appreciation event back at the office in June. It's a great event because of you. So if you weren't able to join us this year, please see if you can join us next year. It's really growing every year, and it's been a terrific event. I will try to keep my remarks brief. Sorry, I paused because it said in my notes that I'm supposed to pause for applause after I say that. This evening, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about what I would like to call the cooperative advantage. Earlier in my draft of my script earlier, I said the word cooperative difference, but different does not imply better. And I want to be clear: cooperatives are better than the investor-owned utilities that serve our service areas around us. We're different. We're better for a lot of different reasons, but we're uniquely positioned to navigate the issues, concerns, and specifically the disruptions that we face providing the essential service of electricity. There are a number of reasons why we're uniquely qualified to deal with these disruptions, but I think the first on that list is that 89 years ago, we were the disruption. Maybe the first disruption of the fledgling electric marketplace. The electric utilities of the early 1900s didn't serve the rural areas. There was no profit in it for them. In the mid to late 1930s, here came the cooperatives. We pushed back on the status quo and energized rural America. The thing that we could all agree on back then is that there was no profit in it. So we provided the service as a not-for-profit cooperative. The electric marketplace has weathered many disruptions over the years. Those have included demand-side management programs, deregulation, net metering, consumer choice, just to name a few. Since those early days, cooperatives have led the way through many of those. As smaller, privately owned electric companies governed by our members, we are often better equipped to react more quickly to changing conditions. Our mission to safely provide reliable, affordable electric service continues to guide our efforts. We maintain a dynamic strategic planning process that allows us to adapt and align our resources to address sometimes rapidly changing disruptions while still meeting the day-to-day needs of our membership. I'd like to share just share some specifics about what disruptions we are facing right now and how we're addressing them and how those efforts are benefiting you. Harkening back to the mission I just mentioned, starting with safety, to be blunt, the disruption is us, the people. We are the ones that create safety problems. Complacency, a shortcut for convenience, or in my case, carelessness. You see, I am the ultimate method actor tonight, so I smashed myself in the face to make a safety point. I've been telling everybody in the office for the last couple of days that I smashed my face probably 25 times a day. So hopefully they're getting a kick out of that. The safety of our employees and the public is our highest priority. It leads our mission statement and is ingrained in all of the work practices. To overcome disruption to safety, again, to overcome us, we have a cross-functional safety committee to meet and discuss all matters of safety on a monthly basis. We perform annual training for first aid, CPR, AED, pole top rescue, bucket rescue, Mayday training, fire extinguisher inspection and use, just to name a few of the many, many trainings we do annually that are safety related. We perform unannounced crew visits with our insurer to review work practice and make sure work practices and share best practices that are out there. And in 2025, we participated in the Rural Electric Safety Achievement Program on-site inspection, where representatives from our statewide association and other cooperatives come and inspect all of our facilities and all of our work practices so that we're making sure that our practices are the best that can be used out there. But the most important piece of disruption mitigation in the area of safety is our emphasis on personal responsibility. That's a major mantra that we've had for a number of years, that safety is personal because it has to be. And we have to be personally responsible for ourselves. Whether a line crew is taking responsibility through energy control measures like getting a visible open, testing the line dead, grounding the line, locking it out and tagging it out, or me taking responsibility for my embarrassing face plant at home, we're all responsible for our own safety. Safety is personal because it has to be. All of those efforts that I just mentioned, those are our attempts to mitigate safety disruptions. And in 2025, it resulted in 0 electrical contacts and 0 lost time incidents at Central Electric. Yeah. That is worth clapping for. Thank you. Safe work practices will be ingrained in the rest of my remarks this evening, but I thought I should mention those specific points before we go further. In the area of reliability, disruptions are a little bit more external and obvious. Our stormy weather that we've had this year, back in March, we had 70+ mile-an-hour winds. Over the 4th of July weekend, a few of you might have noticed that we had 3 different lines of storms come through and have our numbers go up, and then our numbers come down, and then our numbers went up, and then our numbers went down, and then, yes, they went up one more time. For those of us that were spent the weekend either in the office or in the field working, not a great 4th of July weekend, but the reality is we were able to get our members back in service in a very timely manner given the efforts of all of our personnel. But in addition to the stormy weather, we've got trees and wildlife and power supply interruptions that lead the list of our disruptions to our service each year. Our efforts to mitigate these disruptions take many forms. In 2025, trees caused 53% of our outages. I'm an engineer by education. I love statistics. Caused 53% of our outages in 2025. So to mitigate that, in 2025, we trimmed or we cleared 418 miles of right-of-way. We trimmed the trees. We have decreased our trimming cycle to approximately 5 years and established clear specifications regarding those efforts. You might have seen some of our recently trimmed rights-of-way out there. You might not care for them, but I tell you, from an electric utility point of view, we love them. Our goal is to have sky to ground and the entire width of the right-of-way completely cleared. Following that, and also some danger trees if we're allowed to get them outside of the right-of-way. Following that, we come by and do a mowing of the right-of-way, and then at the year after that, we come out and spray to make sure that we retard further future growth. Make sure I've got all that covered. Yes, we did. I've gone off script a couple times here, and normally if anybody else had seen the script but me, they would be upset with me about that. But these efforts result in fewer tree-related outages, fewer wildlife-created outages, and a much lesser fire hazard as well. Other initiatives that we've done to improve our reliability, we inspected 6,251 poles in 2025, and based on the rejection rate of those, replaced 293 of them. This is reinforcing our infrastructure. We rebuilt 6.1 miles of 3-phase line, increasing capacity and further reinforcing the system in 25. And one of the bigger pictures I mentioned was the power supply interruptions. We work very closely with our generation and transmission cooperative partner, that's Allegheny Electric Cooperative. Those of you that have been here before have heard me mention them a number of times. We work very closely with them to address our reliability concerns with regard to power loss to our substation delivery points. The effort is constant, but with varied results. While there have been some specific additions and improvements made to some of the lines that supply our substations, the maintenance effort and priority of cooperative outages can drift over time and requiring us to continue our efforts to be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. The area of affordability is on everybody's mind these days, of course, and it offers perhaps the broadest scope of potential disruption, especially today. Perhaps the top of the list is the definition of affordable, and I'm assuming that you would have thought that I would have mentioned data centers as the top of that list right now with regard to this particular issue. Trust me, we'll get to the data center conversation in just a minute. But the affordability of something depends on your perspective. We've made active efforts to position ourselves in the electric marketplace to be competitive with the surrounding utilities and have been very successful in that effort. We are much cheaper than Penelec in our northern tier of our service territory. And depending on the year, we're either equivalent to or lower than West Penn in the southern component of our territory as well. That's a big change from the past. But we recognize that competitive does not mean affordable, and we get that. So we take additional steps to try to make sure that our rates are as low as they can be. Disruptions to the power marketplace have placed upward pressure on the cost of power that we purchase on your behalf. These disruptions include a lack of available power supply caused by premature closures of generating facilities without equivalent replacement and significant increases in electric demand, largely driven by the aforementioned data centers. So let's talk about what Central does on your behalf to mitigate those issues and make electricity as affordable as we're able. First, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we're a not-for-profit distribution electric cooperative. Whatever margin remains at the end of the year after expenses are paid is allocated to each of you proportionally based on your usage for the year. You have your financials in front of you to show what that number was last year, but it was $2,980,837, and that was all allocated to our membership. Additionally, as the financial health of the cooperative allows, your board of directors authorizes us to retire capital credits or return some of that patronage capital to you from that we've collected previously. In April of 25, we returned over $1.9 million in capital credits to our members. Those two facts, the very healthy margin and the retirement of capital credits, indicate the continued financial health of your cooperative. Some other efforts through federally funded low-income energy assistance and our state approved use of escheats or unclaimed property, we were able to help 346 families with hundreds of thousands of dollars in assistance with their energy bills, all at no cost to our membership, certainly making things more affordable. To further mitigate those costs, our membership, we offer electronic bill payment methods. In 2025, a full 74% of our bills were paid electronically, saving on mailing and processing expenses. So thank you for your participation in that. You're helping save money for yourselves. Through our voluntary load control program, members can opt for Central to control supply to hot water heaters and electric heating systems that curtail demand during peak and high cost periods during the year. Our largest expense every year is our power costs, what we're buying from you from Allegheny Electric Cooperative, our generation and transmission supplier. As part owner of Allegheny Electric Cooperative, as I mentioned, Rick Weaver sits on the board of directors of Allegheny on behalf of Central. Central's been able to limit our exposure. Okay. I'll speed it up. I get it. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know that was coming. All right. Central's been able to limit our exposure to the volatile power market. Allegheny, and by extension Central Electric, own power generating assets. We own 10% of the output of the Susquehanna Nuclear Facility. We own 100% of the Raystown Hydroelectric Facility. And we have long-term preference power contracts with the New York Power Authority hydro projects. That provides about 65 to 70% of our necessary supply, leaving only about 30 to 35% that we have to buy on the open market. So that limits our exposure to that very volatile marketplace that I've been talking about. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Well, maybe I'm going to come back to that right this minute. This cost mitigating component is particularly important now as the significant disruptors of power plant closures and data center demand that I mentioned earlier ramp up pressure on the wholesale cost market. I promised I'd get to a little bit of a data center discussion, and we're here. Let me start by saying that I am neither an advocate nor an opponent of data centers. I'm very agnostic on this. It's not such a simple topic as data center good or data center bad. There are a great many of issues being discussed very loudly regarding data centers, some very factual and some less so. The issues that are most prevalent, not including any philosophical discussion about the proliferation of AI, are water usage, noise, the appearance of the data center, electrical infrastructure costs, and electric energy costs. I think it's really important to note, as we're standing here at Central Electric's annual meeting, that the idea of water usage, noise, and appearance are certainly outside the realm of our responsibility and or authority to make any effort towards. But with that said, an appropriate governing group can in fact address these situations, and there are ways to address them. For instance, utilization of closed loop or air-cooled cooling would limit water issues. Noise reducing architectural design. My brother would be very upset with me as he's an architect and I just stumbled over that word. Architectural design can diminish noise concerns, and the building, frankly, can be made as attractive as it's required to be. All of these issues would need to be addressed by the governing body, whether it's a municipality, a township, the county, or even the state. The issues revolving around electricity, however, would be centrals to address if the data center were to be sited within our service territory. As a distribution electric service provider, this is really important what I'm about to say, Central has an obligation to serve load within our service territory. That being said, it's our job, specifically staff's job, to make sure that in serving any individual load, we do not put at risk our ability to serve all of our other membership. So that's our focus as we move forward with any potential data center that might come down the pike. With regard to the cost associated with building facilities required to serve a load of the magnitude typical of data centers, Central's job that I'm about to mention sounds really easy. It's a little bit more complicated, but the reality is we don't design, build, or even order any equipment for the project until we receive payment in advance for it. In that way, the costs are not spread disproportionately to our other members. Electric energy demand is a little bit more complicated, but regarding ensuring that any future purchase obligations are met, much like the infrastructure plan I just mentioned, Central would collect money and deposits in advance and therefore insulate our incumbent membership from any risk. We can't put our cooperative in financial harm for a single large load. Excuse me. The challenge that I have not yet identified a solution for, nor have I heard a viable short-term solution to, is the impact of increased demand on the overall marketplace. As an already stretched grid is asked to supply more capacity, simple supply and demand suggests the overall price will increase. I mentioned our business model a little while ago and our relationship with Allegheny Electric. Our business model and that relationship insulate us from the extreme volatility that others will see, but it does not eliminate the concern. New generation assets can address the issue, but the time to bring those online will be outpaced by the demand that's coming. I'm afraid that's all I have about data centers, so stay tuned. This is just the beginning of this conversation. Our planning process incorporates a continuous incremental improvement model that allows us to adapt to the changing issues, concerns, and those disruptions without interrupting our mission. This is particularly important because of the nature of our business, and it's continuous. The resources that allow us to continue all of the previous mentioned disruption busting strategies and identify how we will overcome the disruptions of the future are the people involved with your cooperative. I would like all of the blue shirts to stand up, not the ones on the stage. All the employee blue shirts to stand up if you would, because the staff that's here tonight putting this on for you fills in a lot of these roles, but our information technology department, our human resources, and our finance and accounting facilitate the efforts of our engineering, operations, and member services team. Please join me in recognizing them and thanking them. Our team continues to evolve and add new pieces, and it's supported by our partner organizations like the Pennsylvania Rural Electric Association. Thanks again, Morgan. And Allegheny Electric Cooperative. We are given clear direction and support by the member-elected board of directors that you've all sent to represent you and govern us. And of course, by you, our membership, because you are the reason we exist. You are the reason we were the first disruptors. This is my 17th report to the annual meeting of the membership, and I want to thank you for your time and attention this evening and for the continued opportunity to serve your cooperative. Thank you. Now, I forgot my script, but I'm fairly certain that the next thing on the script is that I'm going to answer previously submitted questions. Is that correct? Thank you. Just one moment. I've got the questions. We had just a couple of questions that were submitted in advance, and I think my remarks actually covered a couple of them, but I wanted to make sure that I reiterated a couple things. So the first comes to us from Jan Perrine. I won't give your account number out to everyone, but the topic is energy demand, and it says, how is Central addressing the demand and quick takeover of data centers in the areas of Western Pennsylvania and the related energy costs? As I mentioned, hopefully my remarks that I just finished covered this topic sufficiently, but it would be appropriate for you to make sure that I reiterate that the measures we're taking would be to insulate our incumbent membership from any financial risk, because we cannot put the ability to serve electricity to our membership at any risk during this process. So I wanted to make sure, again, we'll be doing it by effectively collecting money in advance before we do things. Let's see, the second one was trees and power lines, and it says, it comes to us from Joyce Miller. Again, I won't be sharing your account number, but how close to a power line do tree limbs need to be before they are a hazard or cut down? I won't get specific in that particular question, only because every situation can be very unique. I will only reiterate what I mentioned about what our goal is for our rights of way. We've shortened that trimming cycle dramatically. I think when I first got here, it was a little over 8 years to get back to the same spot and trim again. And now we're down to 5. And our specification is, again, ground to sky, mow it and spray it after that. So that is the intent. Again, I understand that when we get phone calls about how ugly those rights of way are, I really get that. But when 53% of our outages are still caused by trees, it is a necessity. So I wanted to make sure I reiterated that. The third question that was presented was regarding outages over the 4th of July weekend. And so we had Fred Terwilliger followed up with that member directly about that. But I did want to make mention of that particular storm because it's the most recent one we've had, other than the one that's shaking the building at the moment. As I mentioned in my remarks earlier, the 4th of July storm, as all storms are, was very unique. It hit us first on, I think it was Friday night or maybe Thursday night overnight that the first round of them came through. Took us up to about 3,500 members out of service with no power supply interruptions, which was shocking, but 3,500 members out of service. We were able to, by early the next day, get that number down right around 250 members working to restore outages while we were still working to restore outages. And then about 5 o'clock in the evening on Saturday, the next round of storms hit us. Took that number, jumped it right back up to about 1,500. By the next morning, we were right back down again. And by about 5 o'clock on Sunday, we had gotten it down to almost 100 people only out of service. And then perhaps the largest of the 3 storms hit us again, taking us up to about 3,700 members out of service. So again, a very unique effort a very unique storm, but a unique effort on our part in restoration. Fred and his team, for those of you who don't know, Fred Terwilliger is our assistant general manager and COO and heads up our engineering and operations group. Him and his team established a round-the-clock process to make sure we had people in the office to support the people that were in the field. We brought in additional help immediately, as well as all of our available resources. We had At one point, 6 different tree trimming crews out there with our people working, and we had, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, but I think we had 5 outside crews as well as our own crews working throughout that entire weekend during that same rotation. Again, understand that bad timing, 4th of July weekend, everybody, especially 250 years, right? Everybody wanted to have a good party that weekend. The weather was not cooperative for us, but wanted to make sure I made mention of that, even though it wasn't specifically what the question that was asked. With that, if I'm going to step back and grab my script. Those are all the questions that were asked in advance. We do now have the opportunity for anyone who might want to ask a question. For those members who chose not to submit questions in advance, a microphone has been placed in front of the stage, so all may hear your question. You can come up and you have 2 minutes to ask a question, and a response of a similar length will be given. So at this point, I'd open that up for anybody who'd like to come up and ask a question. If you could mention who you are first, yeah.
Rich Bear. I represent the 250 people who were still waiting for power after the July 4th. Okay. And we are the redheaded stepchildren of Central Electric. We live in Worth Township in West Liberty Borough. We're the last ones to get service, and we understand why. The power lines come through the park. Okay. And a tree goes down, and it takes a lot of manpower to get it fixed. There needs to be a way to rectify that. I looked on that a tree could fall on either side of that. That right of way is not cleared far enough. It should be cleared another 50 feet. The height of the tree fall in. The fellow told me that the state wouldn't allow it. Was that true?
Again, not knowing specifically the location,
Okay.
I don't want to say what the state said or not.
Well, it
but-
requires a lot of manpower, and when we look at the outage map, we're watching people coming online. 25 here, 30 here, 15 here, 50 there, 30 there, and our 275 plus the 25 from West Liberty have no power.
Right.
Okay, and so that being said, I got a question that goes with that.
Okay.
You buy that power, we get that power from a substation in Franklin Township. Okay, and it comes through the park, all that 3 miles of rugged terrain. I've hiked it, I've hunted. It's brutal. You know, guys go back there, my hats off to them for what they got to do. But there's a substation on West Park Road, West Penn Power Station. There's a telephone pole 50 feet from my telephone pole with West Penn power lines that I'm not entitled to because I'm Central Electric.
Right.
Okay, so why is it that we can't get a sub off of that substation and at least get more reliable service and take that part out of the equation? Because I'm looking at that thinking, I see the guys. I go out and see what's going on, and so I get an idea, talk to the guys, and see what's going on. That's got to be a tremendous cost on regular time, let alone overtime. Mm-hmm. To send get your crawler there, get the pole erector there, get the guys there. You got to take climbers in. You got to take that Argo thing in there and all that stuff. Okay, and that's my question. Why can't we do that and help us out here? Because we had 13 outages in the last year, and recently, the 26 hours over the 4th. Week before that, 16 hours. It's a lot. I'm running generator, okay? And it's not I don't have a $13,000 Generac. I wheel it out and plug it into my Generalink. My last but not least thing is about just common decency and courtesy, okay? And I mean no disrespect to anybody, but you had a scheduled outage for last week, bad weather. Then the next day it was okay. We're waiting for this outage. We make plans around that outage. And an hour after it's supposed to happen, you send a notice out. Okay, yesterday, my wife and my grandmother's there, and I'm trying to keep them in power. I got an appointment. I get my generator running at 7:30 in the morning. Power outage is for 8. 11 o'clock, I get a notification that says, we've canceled that. That's rude. You can't tell me that you didn't know at 8 o'clock that you weren't putting that power on. You can't tell me that. You had to know. And I mean, if something came up, it came up before that or you would have been there, correct?
Again,
you don't know that.
yeah,
Right? Okay, but I'm just saying, you got to look at, we're doing what we got to do to make, and we accept that. You're doing some upgrades, saw some new poles in, some new line. But you got to be more courteous because it's annoying. When you got to live in our area and like I said, I represent those 275 people that you talked about, okay? And that's all.
All right, there's a little bit to unpack there. Let me see if I can address a couple of those items. 6 minutes, right? Let me see if I can address a couple of those items. I'll start with the last one first. The notification of a scheduled outage is what you're referring to. And certainly, we always have a backup day when we're going to do that because the weather isn't necessarily conducive to us doing that. In this particular case, I know that we had a situation that came up when the crew arrived at the scene. They could not take the outage for a different reason. I don't have the specifics of that, and yes, I ran into this conversation about when we notified, and that we notified both in person with one person in particular that I spoke to, and after the fact, they got another notification saying, "Oh, we're not having the outage." So we said, "Yes, you are." Then they got an outage. They got a notice saying they weren't. Unfortunately, the timing of when some of those messages were put into the queue to be sent lagged behind when we actually had information. So yes, I apologize for that particular scenario. But again, I appreciate that, and we appreciate that. So getting that feedback, again, I got that same feedback from another member, not one of the members that you're representing. I don't think so, no. But with regard to the location, we are regularly looking at a number of potential scenarios of how we may mitigate the outage concerns in that area. Adding another delivery point, and so another substation location for what would be 275 people is not a practical alternative. So while I understand the proximity to the other facilities, I understand the concern there. Taking the delivery point there for that would not make financial sense for the entirety of our membership. That said, that doesn't mean there aren't things that we can do. With regard to the right-of-way issue you mentioned about how wide it's cleared, whether the state will allow us to trim it or not is less about that and more about how wide is the right of way. If we only have a 50-foot right of way, that's all we can trim. Even though the trees might be bigger than that and we would need to trim more than that, if the right of way that we've been granted is only X wide, we can only trim that wide.
But we think that the state, it's remote from,
I know, yeah.
we think that you're providing power. That purpose of that line is to power Marine State Park.
Right.
Okay, so it behoove them and state state legislator, contact state legislator, get them to say, hey, give us more room. And would you cut them back if we did that?
Yeah, well, if we had a wider right of way that we could clear, yes, we would certainly clear a wider right of way. That being said, it has not been our experience in working with either the National Forest or the state that they are on their land, that they want us to clear any more trees than we are already clearing. To be as diplomatic about it as I can. So I know I haven't given you the answers you wanted, but I think I've responded to each of the points you were making. Thank you. Sir?
Hi, my name is Mark Bullock. I had a question about, you barely touched on it, net metering. Just wanted to share the inception of our solar array began in February. We were under the understanding that it was 1-for-1, as it is typically in the rest of the state where you're governed by the PUC. Unfortunately, our cooperative is not governed by the PUC. And so
I'll have to disagree with you that that's unfortunate, but go ahead.
But so 1-for-1 really wasn't what it is in the rest of the state.
I'm not sure what you're meaning by 1-for-1.
Okay, so when you overgenerate with your solar array
Right.
during peak time, which we're actually on a load control right now for the next 12 minutes, we get what's called wholesale now. I found out when we went online on the 23rd.
You actually get what's called avoided cost, but yes.
Avoided cost, which is at a wholesale price. We don't get 1-for-1. So when we need it back in the evening, we don't get one. We get 18.9 cents a kilowatt hour one. We get credit for 7.2 cents a kilowatt hour. My question to the board and you as well.
Sure.
With this solar panel array, and I understand you got these big farms you got to deal with. They're not load bearing customers. They're just generating and putting it on the grid. But with the smaller ones like we are, if you could consider us to be load management meters, because typically we generate in the peak time of the day when you would have to go out to the spot market and admittedly pay more than what your contract amount is. And I don't export until my whole home
Right.
is off the line. So when I'm exporting, like yesterday, I exported 40 kilowatt hours. You had a load control going on. Today, I exported over 30 kilowatt hours until this happened. And, and you had a load control, which is going on for the next 10 more minutes. So I would like to see better compensation for that exported energy. And you have like 16 schedules, they're called, and they're different ways of metering. One is your typical residential.
Right.
4 is your load control. But you had 16, evidently there's some missing, so you've deleted some. I would like to see you maybe have another one that is similar to the load control that would cover this small solar producers to help us get our payback earlier, because that's what I figured my payback on was 1 for 1. And
I see.
we're not going to get that.
No, I get that. So there's a couple different things here. First of all, the load control program and the net metering program, very, very different things. Okay, they're because you're generating into the facility, you're over generating back into our grid is a function of when you're producing power and you've used all you need and you're just pushing it back onto us to us. It is not coinciding necessarily. It can potentially coincide with what peak times would be, but it doesn't necessarily do that. So there would have to be some level of, we would have to have some level of control over that. But let me take a step backwards to the bigger picture of net metering. We made a change a couple of years ago to what was called a full retail net metering, as what you're referring to as 1-to-1.
1-to-1.
A full
Yeah.
retail net metering, because it is in that while you're doing that, all the kilowatt hours that you push back onto our system, you are getting both the generation that we're not buying, that's the avoided cost, and you are getting the distribution cost, so the full retail cost. Whether you use any energy at all or not, if our lines are connected to your home, those distribution costs exist. So the fact that we charge you by the kilowatt hour with regard to that doesn't necessarily recover our total requirements for that. When you were pushing it all back and getting full retail for that, that means all of the other membership that does not have a solar facility is subsidizing your solar facility. So we made the change. It's called a modified buy all, sell all is the approach we're taking. It's something that's been adopted not only cooperatively by multiple cooperatives across the state, but also in multiple states. And there's legislation in many states, Pennsylvania is pending, but it hasn't happened yet, where the investor-owned utilities will be doing the same thing, because the power that we're not purchasing is what you're saving the cooperative. It isn't the peak demand periods. It's the power that you're not purchasing on your behalf. So that's what we're giving you back, is the avoided cost that we get from Allegheny. As far as what that number actually is, you mentioned 7.2 cents. That fluctuates annually, and it's based on a specific contract amount from Allegheny that fluctuates annually as well. It's what's referred to as the load following contract. So the value of that contract has a certain cents per kilowatt hour, and that's the number that we get from Allegheny. So that money that we're giving back to you isn't actually coming from Central at all. It's passing through us to you from Allegheny Electric Cooperative, because that's what we're not buying. It's what they're not buying on the marketplace on your behalf. So this is the current methodology we're using. I understand those that have put in larger than their own usage solar facilities have seen a longer buyback period to pay this off. I would go back all the way to the inception of the net metering law that you referenced. That was not intended for people to generate back into the system. It was intended for people to offset their own use, but they smartly recognized that there's not a generation. We have a load following contract with Allegheny that follows our actual load use. You don't have that. So in order for that not just to go to waste, either you'd have to put it into a battery storage, or you'd need to push it back to the system. So the law gave the opportunity for it to be net metered back into the system. That's how it came to be. It was never intended for individual homes to be generators on the system. At some point, too many of those exist. If we allowed those to be what you're describing, there would create an imbalance in generation in the system and how it flows. So the demand component that you're talking about, trying to make it a demand response, that is not practical for a net metering facility. That being said, we made a conscious decision to change the net metering policy to take the subsidy away from all of our other members and have you receive money for the actual savings that you're providing to the cooperative.
Okay, so you wanted to keep this, you made the statement that you wanted to keep this fair for all the other members. So how is it fair for me to have to pay 18.9 cents a kilowatt hour for what comes back when my neighbor's got a load management meter and his generation and transmission is 0.039, where my generation and transmission is 0.0924.
Okay, I'm not looking at your neighbor's bill, but what I would tell you is that your neighbor has 2 meters. Your neighbor has a meter where he's got one panel that's supplying whatever portion of his home, on the other panel that is only supposed to be electric heat. We can't control what people are putting onto that. He is getting controlled during that period of time, and so that is the demand response program. So you also have the ability to participate in that program. I did mention that in my remarks as well. It's an opt-in program. You could participate and get exactly that same benefit.
Okay, well, I just would like to see a more fair payback on this than the
I
wholesale
appreciate
or
that.
avoided cost, whatever you want to call
I
it,
appreciate that.
for the energy that I do require.
I appreciate that, and I'll certainly have we'll have a conversation in the boardroom with regard to that. But I
appreciate it.
would make the argument that the methodology we're following right now is the more fair for all of our members, not individual members. So I just want to be just to be clear. That's
I
where we were.
appreciate your consideration. on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To lower this a little bit, I'm a little short here. My name is Mary Beth, and I'm with the Blue Collar Tavern. And I just have a quick question. Right now, we're more or less half open, half closed. My question would probably be to your solicitor. Last year, in June of 2025, one of my bartenders told me about the crew from Central Electric. The former owner, this was only purchased by my boyfriend and I a year and a half ago. So we bought it in December of 24, opened in January of 25. In the summer of 25, my bartender told me, we were outside because she smokes and that's where they have to smoke. So when she was having a smoke break, she was telling me about how the electric pole was moved by the owner, the former owner, Brian Lander, and you guys come out and did it. But what happened is when you opened and dug the ground up, they found an underground, very scary looking, I don't know what to call it, an underground tank. And so they were there all week. Normally they would have just been there one day to come in and move this pole. Well, they were there all week eating, and she got to know them. Now, she no longer works for me, but I am.
Just for reference, our crew wasn't eating all week. They were just eating on their
They were
lunch,
eating
on their
there
lunch breaks.
every day on their lunch break. I'm sorry.
you. That's okay.
But basically what I'm trying to say is I have contact. I'm ready to go to ground surface radar to find out what's underneath there. I just want to find out who can I talk to from Central Electric to find out, to get the information. I'm getting discovery for a lawsuit is what I'm doing.
I
Yes.
understand. To get what information from us? I'm
I
not-
need to know what they saw, and I need names, and I need the information to give to our attorney. I haven't picked the attorney yet, but yeah.
I
So
see.
basically, I'm Perry Mason and
I'd say-
Paul, what's his name? Paul, his sidekick. That's what I've been doing. So,
I'd suggest you reach out to our office
when
and
you
give us
well,
specifics.
maybe
of,
what
of
I'm
time and
asking.
location.
Okay, maybe you can answer this. What is your procedure? Procedure for whenever you do on private property, you're digging to put a pole in and you find an underground tank and don't report it to anybody. And I was just told that the guys that worked on it said, you know, they looked at it and said, holy, you know, whatever, what the heck is it? And it was just shoved under the rug. Nobody said a word.
Well, it's not our tank.
No, no, I'm
so,
not, I'm not blaming Central
No, no,
Electric,
I understand what you're saying, but
but I'd like to know who did it.
when
So if I have
we
to get
do
a
a-
court order, I'll do that.
before we do any digging, we do a locate, a call before you dig, locate. So if something's underground, it's supposed to be marked. So when our guys are digging in the ground and they come across something that's not marked,
Right.
unless we've created damage to it,
No, you didn't do anything
then
wrong.
we
It's
don't.
just an old septic tank,
Right.
and that's why. So I'm actually going after the DEP as well. So
Yeah, I understand. Again, we are asked to put a pole in a
that's
location
okay.
and we dig a hole.
I'm just doing
so-
this for the record.
I
So
get it.
I've given my question.
appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'm not blaming anybody here, but yeah.
Okay.
You'll definitely be hearing about it.
All
so
right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
The line seems to have dwindled. All right. If there are no further questions, Central Electric's legal counsel, Mike Sloat, will now offer his report.
An affidavit by the cooperative secretary affirms that notice of the time and place of this annual meeting was mailed to each cooperative member as such member's address appears in the cooperative's records. That affidavit, as well as a copy of the notice, are to be attached to the minutes of this meeting. In accordance with Pennsylvania's Electric Cooperative Law of 1990, electric cooperatives are managed by a board of directors. As required by its bylaws, Central Electric's board consists of 8 directors. Each director's seat is derived from the districts created from the counties served by the cooperative. Each director's seat is a term of 4 years, and each year, 2 director seats are up for election. The 2 seats up for election this year are from Armstrong County and Butler County. Earlier this year, the cooperative's monthly newsletter called Power Lines, which is archived in the cooperative's website, among other communications, invited cooperative members residing in Armstrong and Butler County to file a petition to run for these respective director seats. The eligibility requirements for serving as a director of the cooperative are provided in the cooperative bylaws and the member handbook. The cooperative bylaws and member handbook are available at the cooperative website at www.central.coop. The board appoints members to a nominating committee to ensure that petitioning members are eligible. The nominating committee reviews the petitions to verify whether each petitioner qualifies in accordance with the cooperative bylaws, and those that qualify are nominated and their names are placed on the ballot. We thank the following members serving on the nominating committee: Harvey Luce of Armstrong County, Joe Gibson, Butler County, Angela Bernardo, Butler County, James Reed, Clarion County, Randy Theron, Clarion County, Dennis Lamb, Forest County, Carl Gadsby, Venango County, and Ron Perenick of Venango County. The cooperative bylaws provide that incumbent directors are automatically nominated as long as they continue to meet the qualifications. For this election, the Butler County incumbent director, Bob Smith, decided not to run for another term. There were 3 qualifying candidates nominated for the Butler County director seat: Todd Shingleton of Slippery Rock, Mark Greiner of Butler, and Tim Edmonds of Chicora. There was 1 qualifying candidate nominated for the Armstrong County director seat. It's incumbent director Nancy Lignac of East Brady. The ballots were mailed to the cooperative memberships, permitting each member 4 options for voting. The first option is by paper mail. The second option is online through the cooperative's website. The third is online through Smart Hub, the cooperative's online accounting management system. The fourth was members could cast their ballots here tonight before the beginning of the meeting, and the mailed and online ballots had to be received by no later than 3 o'clock yesterday. The paper ballots tonight were accepted up to the commencement of the meeting. The collection and tabulation of the mailed and online ballots received prior to tonight's meeting was handled by an independent agency, Survey and Ballot Systems of Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Survey and Ballot Systems reported those results to the Judge of Elections, Clint Mattern. Mr. Mattern was appointed as Judge of Elections tonight and is certified public accountant. He has offices in Emlenton and Meadville. As Judge of Elections, Mr. Mattern is overseeing the teller's tabulations of the ballots that were cast tonight, as well as the tabulations that were mailed and received online by Survey and Ballot Systems. I'd like to thank the following members and volunteers that served on the tellers committee. You saw them as you came in. Mary Ann Mistrick, Forest County, Deborah Young of Armstrong County, James Brown of Venango County, and Michael Gaston of Butler County. The Judge of Elections will soon announce those reports. And Jody, you are welcome back to the podium, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, at this time, is there any unfinished business this evening? Is there any new business this evening? Being there's no unfinished business or new business, let us continue on to the election results. Clint?
My name is Clint Mattern, and I've been appointed to serve as the Judge of Elections for the Central Electric Director election. The 2026 Central Electric Cooperative Director election results are the following. For Butler County, Todd Shingleton with 1,103 votes. Mark Greiner with 584 votes. Tim Edmonds with 773 votes. The winner for Butler County is Todd Shingleton. For Armstrong County, Nancy Lenyek, incumbent nominee with 2,122 votes. The winner for Armstrong County is Nancy Lenyek. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Nancy, and congratulations, Todd, on your election. At this time, door prizes were announced to encourage the attendance of the annual meeting. The winners of the 3 Visa gift cards will be announced following adjournment of this meeting by Izzy. If there's no further business or discussion, I declare the 89th annual meeting of Central Electric adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
The winner of the $100 Visa gift card is Michael Barry of Shippenville. If he's here. Congratulations. The winner of the $75 Visa gift card is Claire Martin of Portersville. The winner of the $50 Visa gift card is Dolores Holler of Slippery Rock. Congratulations to all the winners. The gift cards are available to the winners at the registration table. Please stop by prior to leaving. The bill credits given to all the members in attendance will appear in the September billing statement. None of these are redeemable for cash. Thank you to everyone who participated in the 89th Central Electric Annual Meeting of the Members. We hope to see you in 2027.